clearly this is a subject of debate and discussion. There are nuances and more nuances. There are no clear answers and more questions. There is merit because there is data to show that diversity in whichever form does help promote business success. There is an acknowledgement that diversity doesn't lie alone in a conversation about gender. There are obviously different dimensions. And finally, there is an admission on the part of my colleagues and very senior HR professionals that this isn't easy. It isn't easy by any standard. There are dilemmas that need resolution, and these dilemmas continue in our minds and in our workplaces. With that, I open up the conversation with the floor. So, if I can set certain ground rules, if there is a specific person you'd like to ask the question of, you please mention the name of that person, but do so after introducing yourself. So your name, which organization you're from, what your question is, and who you want to ask the question of. And the question has to be completed in 30 seconds.
Why don't you tell them the rule we adopted as a diversity this time, that this time only the chairman will be answering all the questions?
Since you made me the chairman.
Hi.
Sorry, I don't even know who's asking the question. Right there, okay.
Hi, my name is Gaurav Sundaram from Agencia. I'm not an HR specialist in any form or shape. I run a business. And my question to the panel is, shouldn't merit be the only criteria? Why should this debate be on diversity? Because frankly, hearing you guys talk, it sounded a little bit like the government of India saying we should do this and we should do that and we should do everything else, but the primary focus seemed to be lost. I'm sorry, I'm being a little blunt, but...
Absolutely, I like that. So the question, the more difficult the question, the more it goes to Adil. Adil, you get this one.
Oscar Wilde once said that they laugh at me because I am different. I laugh at them because they're all the same. All right, so that's exactly what we are saying, that merit should be the basis of selection. Unfortunately, what we have forgotten over a period of time, that now there is equal amount of talent sitting on the other side, which needs to be attracted, because no longer are the limitations of working from house or working in a given period continuing to be the limitations that the old world had faced. So organizations, in the interest of upping the talent quotient, should actually go for merit. You're right, it should go for merit and attract the talent which is lying there rather than substituting it with substandard talent from the male domain. That's the answer to it.
Okay, thank you. Pramod.
Yeah, this is Pramod again. The best example of diversity management is 9 p.m. on Times Now every evening. The country wants to know, Arnab Goswami wants to know, the different thought leadership. Risha, the question is, there's a lady CEO who 4 hours before her labor pains was conducting senior executive meeting. 6 weeks post-delivery, she came back.
We're not being able to follow the question.
So the voice is echoing.
There is a lady CEO
yeah.
who 4 hours before labor pains was conducting an executive meeting with the senior execs. 6 weeks post-delivery, she's back onto the job. She goes by the name of Marissa Mayer, CEO of Yahoo. Question is, she comes back, she in one stroke of a pen cuts down the telecommuting policy, no more home office, and everybody comes back to the office. Question to the panel is there a perspective here about fixing diversity management the other way?
Yeah, I mean, Marissa Mayer, very famous for some of the recent changes that she brought about in Yahoo. I think I'll break it up into two. Her maternity experience was very talked about. But again, you know, going back to the point of diversity of thought, if this is how she chooses to have her baby, and this is how she chooses to bring up her baby, that's a choice which she has made. I don't think, again, going back to the point about whether, you know, it is an emulation for other women, I don't know the answer. On the second bit, you know, when she stopped this whole policy about working from home, from what I read about, it was being driven primarily where Yahoo was at that point of time. And, there was a lot of criticism about this flexibility being taken away. I, for one, I'm a proponent of flexibility. But, I would tend to believe it was being driven by their own business strategy and the lower productivity rates which were kicking in. That would be just my view based on what I've read.
Okay, great. Okay, let's have some, yes, please.
Yeah, this is something which is to the entire panel and to all the audiences out here. India, diversity, this is something which we really need to think about. The diversity in thinking amongst our own gender and the male gender. What is the stereotyping that has happened? If the child is sick at home, who has to stay back? The mother. The father is also around. What is it? What is diversity for me today would be, can we in India reach out this thought that, look, diversity is not stereotyping a female. Well, all the problems that were discussed, people dropping out, the ladies themselves feeling, I feel guilty that I've left my child back home. Why? Why is my male husband not feeling that? Can diversity of thought be expanded and to take not just the female or the male, the inclusiveness has to happen at every level at my home, in my community, in my office, in my society. How are we as an organization going to work towards this? This perhaps could actually solve this, the ecosystem out here that we are talking about is not yet there. But why? Because it starts with me. If I'm not going to be there, I don't think anybody is going to be there. And when is this lady going to believe that, yes, it's not just she, but everyone else is also equally responsible for this?
Sure, thank you.
But ma'am, the most important thing you missed out, that you covered every element of the social system except your own home.
I did.
Where you start differentiating between your son and your daughter.
Exactly.
And that's exactly where it begins.
Exactly. When Margaret Alva was addressing a conference, she said, a woman is her own enemy. At one level, I didn't agree with that. But from your perspective, what you're saying, she said, what do I do if there is one chapati? My son likes it, my daughter likes it, I'm going to give it to my son. Now, this is something, you start looking at it. लड़कियों को दी जाती है, क्या दी जाती है? शादी पे दी जाती है. What is this that we are talking about? We today, we need to actually look at, our languaging. Everything that we are doing is something very different. This is a diversity which I would think we need to really look at. Because it starts from our home, and I think the minute we start looking at it very carefully, there is the children, the girl child is being...
I'm sorry, in the interest of time,
Sure.
just to allow 2 or 3 more questions. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, please. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Muthu Krishnan, and this question is addressed to Adil. We all talk about diversity, but what if this diversity comes at a cost of productivity? We talk about diversity, and you talked about recruiting 45 female candidates at one point of time just to maintain diversity. But what if those 45 female candidates, I'm just giving you a context, could be probably, you would have missed 3 deserving male candidates who are probably better than these 45 female candidates. So if there is a question between diversity, which includes affirmative action, etc., and productivity, what would you choose?
Okay, so let me ask another question.
No, you're meant to give the answer.
Sir, it's my right to ask questions.
What if after bringing these 45 women, you found that the productivity is 3 times higher than the rest of the men?
Sir, absolutely I would agree.
Correct.
As
So
long as the
therefore,
productivity...
at some point of time, you need to test it out. All right? If you say, I'm not going to test out because 3 men are, for all you know, you may now come to a conclusion you don't need to recruit men at all.
So I'm not talking about an
That-
situation where we are experimenting. I'm talking about.
So therefore, in theory, diversity not at the cost of merit. Merit is important,
Right.
but you should not have your male biases and define that as merit. That is very important.
Sure, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you. There's no winner between the two. Huh? So in case you were clapping, Adil is one with his answer.
No. I thought the battle was this way. Right?
Okay, last question before we wrap up the day. It's somebody,
There.
Anu gets to pick. Which one?
No.
You get to pick.
Okay, this gentleman.
Sure, thanks. I'm Anil Gilani from DSP BlackRock Pension Fund Managers. Since this panel was about the how part of diversity, is there any view from the panel from the perspective of regulatory framework leading to this diversity? And the classic example I would like to discuss about is the fact where companies' board of directors have some regulatory angle wherein diversity, of course, at the basic level of the gender diversity has been introduced. So does the panel share any thoughts or any views on regulatory aspects relating to diversity? It's a very difficult thing, but luckily or whatever, at this point of time, it's only at board level.
Diversity on the board.
See, there is a regulatory dimension which has come in of having one woman director on the board. So I think as per the new law, it is something like we spoke about it becoming more of a compliance. So yes, it will now lead to having that diversity which is not by choice but by law. In fact, the good organizations had recognized that diversity adds value, and such organizations already have ladies members on the board. So I don't think they will be affected. But by doing so, many a time the government or the lawmaking authorities of the organization actually drive a change. That's how a change gets driven. Sometimes a change gets driven proactively by the community who recognizes it, and sometimes a change gets driven by the law because you have to put some action through law for that. So there will be a difference. What it means also, in fact, I was at another forum where this point got discussed is, if you look at it, because the regulator has suggested that, would it be that the organization respond to it through a quota, or,
Exactly, that's what my
or would progressive countries, for example, Australia, gives a lot of emphasis in building women leadership. They don't say that there is a quota. They say that each organization should invest to build women leaders, because more women leaders you have, you will choose them to be on the boards. So that's the other approach. But I think the government has made a choice by driving it through a law.
I think I just want
Great.
to add that one challenge is there are not enough senior women to join the boards right now. And it will happen over the years. But as things stand today, the market is struggling. The positive outcome of that is there are fewer women, which means there's more demand than supply, which means they will get paid more. So that's good.
You've just increased your demand sitting right
Absolutely.
there. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a wonderful conversation. I want to thank Vinay. I want to thank Adil. Thank you, Adil. Anu and my friend Ashutosh for a wonderful conversation today. Have a good evening. See you again.
Not yet. Thank you very much, Mr. Suri. Please stay where you are. If I could request Mr. Cyrus Master, Country Business Head, HT Shine, to please present small tokens of appreciation to all of you. Thank you very much, Mr. Suri, for masterfully conducting that session and bringing in a lot of humor. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're almost near the end, but we have a small little talk that we'd like to have all of you listen to. So if I could request all of you to please take your seats down below and ask a very pertinent speaker to please come up and make the closing note. He is Mr. Gaurav Sundaram, Country Director, Agencia. Mr. Sundaram brings extensive expertise in corporate travel management from previous executive positions, and he's a He's been proven to be a high-energy leader with nearly 20 years of experience and notable success in the travel services industry. Mr. Sundaram.
Hi, good evening. I feel a little bit of a misfit coming to this event and being asked to present a closing note because my domain of focus is a little different from yours. But as I was thinking and preparing my notes for what I had to say today, I think there's also a lot of synergy. Human resources and professionals in the human resource domain probably feel the maximum heat of dissatisfied employees when it comes to travel, travel policy, travel reimbursements, the overall experience of getting something done. So I hope I can keep you engaged for the next 5 or 10 minutes on what I feel is really, really crucial for senior HR professionals like yourself to really focus on, because travel is your second largest controllable expense. In the Indian domain, at a C-level, there is hardly any discussion that corporations seem to have either internally or externally on how to mitigate this cost, how to mitigate employee risk, and how to improve efficiency and technology. Indian corporations also, of course, are at the crossroads. They're contending with this whole discussion on diversity, which is a nice lead-in to what I had to say. The whole conversation of Gen X versus Gen Y, the empowerment versus control debate on should we be more control-focused, should we be more empowerment-focused, and also the eternal dilemma of ROI versus investment and costs. There's also, as Ashutosh mentioned in the previous session, this whole evolution of a new corporate entity in the world, which is the Indian multinational, who is spreading wings, who's setting up operations all over the world, and who is contending with the challenge of the outside world saying, you know, probably we do this better than you guys do, and maybe you should listen to us. And that really comes to the crux of the whole thing, really, is that business travel today in India is pretty much at an evolutionary stage. I think without exception, across the board, as I look at this room, probably most of the organizations which are represented here essentially operate in what we call as a legacy world, which is essentially either a travel agency operation or you go onto an online travel site like a Make My Trip or a Yatra, or maybe you have an implant. Completely manual, completely legacy, completely opaque. And the question that I have for you, as I'm sure you guys are going to take questions back from the previous sessions, is why aren't you looking at global best practices when it comes to this domain, which is so critical to your organization? Why aren't you thinking of technology as a means of ensuring improved efficiency, lower indirect cost, lower direct costs, and greater transparency in the way your enterprise functions? So we have here, I think, a cross-section of multinational companies. You've got huge organizations like SR and KPMG. You've got thousands of employees who travel at any given point in time. But I think the primary point is technology being the accelerator for the change is almost non-existent. And that's probably because some of you are not even looking at it. There's also the other point, which is, I think, getting increasingly focused worldwide, and that's the whole question of corporate duty of care responsibility. In Europe, in the US, there is legislation which binds the leadership of a company that leadership will be accountable and responsible for the safety and well-being of its employees when they are sent to travel abroad. I was talking to a Fortune 10 company in India last week. They say, we basically go wherever we want and book whatever we want to do because we want to go for the lowest possible cost. And so the question came, what do you do when an MH370 happens? And they had no answer. Because there is no way you can control this diversified purchasing and operational experience by claiming that when something goes wrong, we'll figure out a way of doing it, because that's never going to happen. Also, I think as HR professionals, you guys do a lot in terms of technology and best practices from an HR standpoint. You implement, of course, the ERP solutions. You implement, your HR management systems, your policy management systems, and, other stuff. But surprisingly, in the domain of business travel, none of you challenge your operations to say, why aren't you thinking of things like a single sign-on capability to improve the integrity of my travel program? Why isn't an HRIS feed integrated into my travel program such that when I have mass changes of people and organizations which have hundreds and thousands of employees, it's physically impossible to manage that level of complexity? So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I think I'm almost at the 0-second stuff, but I wanted you to pause and take a step back, because I think, the last panel gave a couple of pertinent points, and I think the most critical one is you need to look at being the best, or rather we as Indians and as companies within India need to be looking at being the best. We don't need to take those baby steps up version 1, version 2, version 3. We can go pretty much from version 1 to version 5, which is global best practice today, and the solutions are available today. So I'd like to challenge you to think, as you think about your diversity discussion today, on some things which may not be as critical as probably this discussion is to you on your day-to-day business, but of stuff that impacts your employee, impacts the quality of your enterprise, impacts the level of discussion and the quality of discussion within our organizations. So thank you very much for your time today.
Gosh, he set the bar so high. Thank you very much, Mr. Sundaram. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the close of a very important conference, and I have a long list of people that I need to thank, so I'll just quickly read out these partners' names. For corporate training partner, we've got Regenesis Business School that we need to thank. Team building and leadership development partner, Deference. Healthcare partner, Twacha. Staffing partner, Britman. Entertainment partner, Smash. Management education partner, Chetnas. B-School partner, Indus Business Academy. Knowledge partners, Sheila Raheja School of Business Management and Research and Sheila Raheja Institute of Hotel Management. Real estate partner, Arihant Superstructures Limited. Content partner, Indira Group of Institutes. Business, Travel and Tech partner, Egencia. International Business School partner, Mumbai International School of Business, Bocconi. Event partners, Rising City, Transerve, Medi Assist, Mahatma Gandhi Vidya Mandir, Nasik. Roman Group, Servile Relocations, Headhunters, IES, BlackBerry Messenger and BBM, Staples Advantage, and a lot of people who worked backstage silently. Thank you very much. And more importantly, to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking on and staying on. Now we'd like to invite you to please join us for drinks and dinner. So we've got arrangements both inside the hall as well as outside. So please join us now for drinks and dinner. And if you've got drums lying around, just make sure that you don't drop them. Leave them where they are. They will be collected. Thank you very much. We've also got partners from Difference here. If you'd like to walk up and ask them whether you'd like to be part of a drumming circle or employ them for any of your other conferences, they're available outside to consult with. Thank you very much.